Okay, so Love Island UK season 8 has begun, and I just wanted to give some first impressions of the show. During the introductions, the first thing I noticed with the ladies walking into the villa was just how unnatural it was to see the girls walking in kind of scantily clad in bikinis and high heels. I don't know why this just occurred to me. On other seasons I've watched, this is the usual thing that normally happens. It's quite natural for the show, but this time round it just really struck me as something that's quite unnecessary, and really centered on the male gaze. As a woman watching it, that's just something that really struck me. Is the kind of the ladies walking around in kind of a two piece and 6-inch heels, and it just looks quite awkward, stalking around in a tiny bikini and heels, like flamingos. I think they could have worn shorts, dresses, jumpsuits, skirts, which I think one of the girls, Indiyah, was wearing. But it just seems unnecessary, for them to be showing that amount of skin with no water nearby, or no, water activities or sports. It's 2022. Can we emphasize maybe good fashion and style over, showing excessive skin? With that said, I was really happy to see that all of the contestants this year seem to have normal jobs. So the producers have done a really good job in, bringing forward people that are, normal. So there were, people who were, there was I think a guy that was a fishmonger, there was a waitress there, a few salesmen. And, it's moving away from the models and social media personalities that I feel, were making the show quite contrived and predictable in the past. So I think that's absolutely brilliant. There was a big twist this year, and instead of people stepping forward for each other and choosing who they wanted to be coupled with, apparently the public had already voted on who they wanted together. So the couples were pre-arranged, and the boys were basically told what girl they would be paired with. I thought this was an absolutely brilliant idea for two reasons. And the first being that Love Island is known for its controversy, especially when it comes to how black women are treated on the show during that first choosing round, or that choosing stage where they have to pick their partners. The show has quite a bad record during that process, where black women have been overwhelmingly overlooked and rejected, even by the black men that appear on the show. And there seems to be a bias towards certain phenotypes, normally blondes or brunettes. And I love that this was squashed with this kind of different, with this voting outcome this year. And it's the fact that we didn't have to deal with women being rejected based on the colour of their skin or their phenotype, and that we see couples that were just having to deal with the fact that they'd been paired up together, by public vote. I thought that this was brilliant, especially for the entertainment value. I know some people seem to have had an issue with some of the people that were paired together, but I thought it was brilliant in terms of for entertainment value. There was absolute awkwardness between some of the couples where they were put together, and I think it really added to the entertainment value. Some people didn't look pleased at all, namely Indiyah. She looked like she couldn't hide her disappointment. She was placed with a guy called Ikenna. And Dami also looked a bit subdued with Amber as well. But I think this segment, this kind of new twist, I think was a brilliant addition to the show. So, looking at some public reactions to the pre-coupling by public vote, it looked like a lot of people seemed to think it was quite predictable, that black people were voted in couples together. And whilst that definitely might seem quite condescending and cliche, I think there are some valid concerns and points there that are being made. I think if it means that a black woman actually isn't publicly, rejected by every other male contestant like we see year after year, and actually has a self-esteem intact, I actually think it's a great thing. I think that, some people will be at ease not having to witness that public humiliation that is expected every year, and not having to experience that secondhand rejection as a black woman, I think was a good thing. I think it was good that that was eliminated, that we didn't have to witness that this year at the beginning of the process. Some people call it the black girl being picked last curse, and it really has tainted some people's perceptions, of the show. I think especially in the black community. So I think it's great that that was eliminated. However, I do completely understand people saying that, putting two black people together, it is kind of that eye roll, that kind of workplace situation where, people presume you'll have something in common because you share the same skin color, can come across as quite condescending and very cliche. But at the same time, weighing that against, a black woman perhaps being picked last yet again, we need to, I think, pick the lesser evil here. So, I had no problem with seeing that. So they threw in a wild card, which was that of a tall, really good looking Italian man called Davide. And from a sociological standpoint, it's always really interesting to see how, people socially react to people who are conventionally good looking. And I think for some reason, Italian men especially seem to have really the most positive stereotypes associated with them by people almost, universally. The men seem quite or slightly worried about this man's arrival. And obviously, with the women, the excitement shot up exponentially. And you could say that, pretty privilege is definitely a thing that both men and women benefit from and experience. And there'll definitely be a shift in, the couple dynamics, especially as, the couples didn't choose each other to begin with. And they weren't necessarily into each other, from the get-go. So since they didn't have a choice, it's probably a matter of time before you start to see, shifts happening and, people recoupling. So I just wanted to know, what do you think of the choosing stage being eliminated at the start of this year? And do you think it was a positive thing that nobody was rejected, or do you feel like they took out a really important part of the process? Let me know in the comments below.